wonder where Syed is. He's usually here. Okay. Kids.
A lot of these people are parent people, hey?
What do you mean by parent link people? That people that access parent link, you mean? Or,
Kelly Ray and there's the work there, right?
yes.
Oh, they're gonna have to, huh? Lori, how many names do you need on a petition before? Because you have to have a certain amount before it.
No, that's it for a local improvement. It's, there's so many and they, for any other petition, it's not an official petition anyway. It's just, they're supposed to be names of residents only, Slave Lake residents. But no, there isn't any preset amount. It depends on what your petition is for. Like if you're trying to vote down a local improvement charge, then there is regulations about how that petition works, how many of them people sign. And yeah.
So in this case, it doesn't, there's no
apply.
set number?
No.
Okay.
So what does all of this
Audrey,
have to do
You can
with
sit
the
at
land
this
use
one or
bylaw change?
between
It
Lori and Shirley.
doesn't.
Your choice.
Samantha tried to inform these people that the petition should come when they're complaining about the development permit application.
Yeah,
And they didn't care. They wanted their stuff
Okay,
submitted
so-
now. So just so you're aware.
Yep.
Hi, Audrey. So this really is not part of the agenda. It's
Well-
not an addition.
It's, they wanted you guys to have it.
So you have it.
So I
Is
gave it to you.
Is it an addition to the agenda for information?
Yeah,
only?
because with my report, I've included some already. And so,
Okay,
We were getting them as they were coming in off the website,
mhm,
but we got them like one at a time. So it's nice to see them all in one format.
Yeah.
So you can see how many are for and how many are against.
So I'm surprised that it went through Parent Link and whatever else without having the appropriate.
Yeah, it's because it's about the use and the user.
Really has- I don't.
And is the different colored names any significance?
Makes it look like parents or something.
so some of them are that they are within so many meters of the property, and some of them are, they're not in-town residents.
Okay, so
It depends.
which are which then? Like how
Did it,
so we're all
It's really
here
hard to
and we are
tell.
live and it is, I've
you
got
can't see the pink anyway, so
4:59.
never mind. This dark color
So-
is,
Let's
people that
start the
apparently
meeting.
live in the
Going to call the
vicinity.
meeting to order.
the, okay.
Call the meeting to order. So one thing that we have added is introductions, seeing as we're live on Facebook, and somebody did voice a concern that they don't know who's in the discussion. So we'll start
With me?
at this end.
Okay, I'm Lori Skrinick. I'm Director of Planning and Development for the town of Slave Lake.
I'm Audrey Ames, community member.
Shirley Torzan Shakurda, Board Chair and Community Member.
Julie Brandel, I'm on town council and town council representative, I guess.
Samantha Dick, Development Officer for the town of Slave Lake.
Dan Rooks, local citizen.
Rebecca King, Town of Slave Lake.
Bryce Ferguson, Counselor for the Town of Slave Lake.
Okay, so adoption of agenda. We all received a little parcel here. And I think that we should just add that to the agenda as information in, where should we put it?
It's part of B.
Part of B,
Yeah.
6B?
Yeah.
Okay. Pardon?
Syed.
Syed? Oh, hi.
Hi, Syed.
Syed? Yeah, so just so you have a mic.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm late.
Syed. So we're on adoption of agenda, but we've, at the beginning of our meetings, we are making introductions since it's live on YouTube forever and ever. So if you can just say who you are and what your role in the community is.
Acha, I am a member at large at MPC.
Good. Okay, adoption of agenda. So we have just one little additional piece of information that applies to 6B. And is there anything else? No. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Bryce?
Adopted as amended.
Okay, call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Minutes of previous meeting, October 5th. Is there any corrections? Nothing? Could I get a motion to adopt the October 5th minutes? Dan, call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes? Nothing. Number 5, development permit applications, there's nothing. And on to land use bylaw statutory plan amendments, 6A, bylaw number 22-220, page 9.
Okay, so the purpose of this report is for the MPC to provide council with a recommendation with respect to bylaw 22-2020. The name of the applicant is Town Center Properties, and they're proposing to amend various sections of the land use bylaw with respect to signs. Some history, the Town Center Properties bought the Sawridge Mall in 2018 and have worked hard to bring new businesses onto their site. And as a part of this, they have been looking at more ways to advertise the presence of those businesses within their shopping center. The land use bylaw does not allow for a freestanding sign to be on the same site where they have a super sign. In addition, currently they are not able to erect a directory sign at the main entrance to advertise the tenants within the building, as this would now be considered a freestanding sign. As such, the planning department worked closely with the landowner to come up with a workable solution, which includes the addition of the shopping center directory sign and regulations. This was advertised for 2 weeks and we received no verbal comments or written comments. So the planning department, this bylaw is being introduced to the MPC for recommendation to council on shopping center directory sign regulations. So we're adding in a new sign type, definition reading, a freestanding sign that identifies the names or logos of businesses that operate within a single building. A shopping center directory sign may be located on a shopping center site near the main entrance of the building to identify the businesses that operate within that building. And then just a few regulations, not very many. Basically limiting the size and the height of them. The design has to be the same throughout. There can only be one directory sign per site, and is to be permitted on a multi-tenant building site. The can only display the name and logo of those that operate within the building and should be located at the main entrance of the building. So the planning department is recommending shopping center directory signs as a permitted use in the C5 shopping center district. In looking at other municipal land use bylaws, directory signs are required to be attached to the building and sometimes only allowed to be on the inside of the building. As the applicant wishes to have the sign outside and not attached to the building, these regulations and definition will help to attain that purpose. And we recommend that the MPC supports this bylaw.
Okay, so this is the bylaw, so they will be coming with a permit application. Okay. Julie?
Just a question on where it's going to be located?
So where the pet value area is, there's a main entrance sign that's going to be going over to the door that's to the right. And it will be, there's 2 posts currently in place to hold this sign.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's on the concrete boulevard kind of
Yeah.
thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Right here? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this goes on the building, 1 per building. Are we putting placing any restrictions? Like, does the building have to have so many proposed tenants in it?
So this
For there
is
to be a
only
site.
C5 at this time.
Okay,
So the only site that is C5 at this time.
is the mall.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion? Rebecca, and is there any more discussion? No, call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Six B, bylaw number 23-220, 2020, amend land use bylaw 22-2007, redistricting C1-I?
Yeah.
C1 to I, page 16.
So the purpose of this report is for the MPC to provide council with recommendation regarding bylaw 23-2020. The applicant is Alberta Social Housing Corp., and this property is lots 7 and 8, block 8, plan 1915 HW on 3rd Ave Northeast. The proposal is to amend the land use district map to change the parcels from C1 downtown commercial mixed use to I institutional district. The MDP, or Municipal Development Plan, the site is within it as a downtown designation, and as such, an amendment is not required. That said, the policy of the MDP, the town shall work with client groups, government agencies, and developers to identify and meet targeted housing needs, and periodically review and, if necessary, amend the land use bylaw in order to increase the variety and augment the supply of special needs housing in the community, and to work with social service providers in Slave Lake to help sustain the proper delivery of social services within the community. This is outside of the downtown plan, so there's no amendment required for there. And the land use bylaw, this is C1, so it requires this amendment. Referral comments, we sent referral letters to all of the adjacent landowners within quite an extended period, extended area on October 16th. And to date, I don't remember what it is, but at the time of the report, we had 2 comments for and 1 against, and then have since received a few more which are attached to your packages, as well as a petition against. The bylaw is being introduced to the MPC to give a recommendation. We must remember that when considering this rezoning request, that this is about whether or not the institutional district makes sense for this site. We should not be looking at this request through the vision of any potentially divisive uses for the site. Irrelevant concerns include business competition and user versus use. We would like to caution the NPC that discussions that include user versus use can result in legal challenges based on discrimination and/or infringement of human rights. That said, Alberta Social Housing has leased the building to the MAP program to allow the program to operate, and with the hopes of growing their program to include transitional housing in the future. After discussion with the development officer who reviewed the uses for institutional district with them, they felt that this is a better opportunity for rentals and uses in the future if they rezone the property. These lots are located at the outside edge of the downtown commercial area and at the start of the residential area, and as such should pose fewer concerns for the neighboring residential landowners because it is not located within the heart of a residential district. The Director of Community Services, Gary Roth, tells us that the MAP program plans to put a 6-foot fence on the side of the property between the building and the neighboring residential property to help keep users of the MAP program separate from the adjacent residential neighborhood. And Mr. Roth has been working with the MAP program coordinator to help coordinate this process. The purpose of the institutional district is to permit development of uses of either a public or private nature which provide services to the community. Institutional district and spot zoning. This zone is unusual in that it can be located within all other districts and is not considered spot zoning. Like putting an M1 in the middle of an R1 district. The institutional district is meant to complement an area with services or uses that are essential to that area. And the subject lands are located at the edge of the C1 downtown mixed-use commercial and are near 2 other parcels that have institutional zoning. It is The last two uses of this building were institutional in nature. That was the medical clinic and the Parent Link program office. This building is quite large and unlikely to be rented out as a commercial retail use anytime soon, as it has been sitting empty since July and for a while before the Parent Link program had entered it. The owners feel that rezoning this property fits their needs better, as they all are looking at ways to rent out the building for the future. The planning department feels that this site is potentially the best site in the area to be zoned as institutional, as it creates a bit of separation between a commercial and a residential properties. Further, it locates institutional uses which provide service to the public in an area that has excellent access to the downtown core. The planning department feels that the subject site lends itself well to many of the uses listed in the institutional district. And so at this time, the planning department has no concerns with the application and recommend that MPC indicate their support for bylaw 23, 2020. Any questions?
So I've got a comment. Like, just looking at this and looking at what the previous uses have been in that building, and just the fact that it was never zoned institutional when it actually should have. Just looking at that, not looking at what a further future use could be, I don't have a problem with it. What I have a problem with is the presentation of the report, that we're not allowed to have discussion about anything other than the rezoning of this piece of property. But then within the whole report, we're given all this information about a future use.
Okay.
So I ask everybody to look at the presentation and look at it as a rezoning for future uses that we aren't even aware of. So just the fact that it was Parent Link, it was a medical building, and it's never been zoned institutional. The owner is obviously, they would lean more towards having institutional uses in that building. So let's discuss it as that. Okay,
Yeah.
so is there any comments? Julie?
I'll just throw a ditto, actually, because I was surprised to find out that I was thinking that maybe Parent Link had it rezoned to C1, and that it was never actually institutional. If the last two uses were institutional, I was surprised that it wasn't actually institutional a long time ago. So
Yeah.
So I think that's the better use too, regardless of who's going in
Yeah,
and
it
doing
is a
what.
good use for the building, for the site where it's located. Yeah. Rebecca?
So taking into consideration the rezoning request, it was made very clear that the focus should remain on just the zoning designation and not any other uses at this point. So saying that, our council, a goal of our council has been committed to building opportunities and growing businesses and industry and population while promoting ourselves and our exceptional quality of life. So saying that, I personally feel that rezoning this parcel of land is going to be actually working against what we're working towards. The particular site we're talking about, like you said, is located just at the outer edge of downtown, but at the start of residential, hence the C1 zoning. The last two uses were institutional in nature. However, the zoning didn't get affected because the uses also fell under C1 designation. So there was no need to rezone it to institutional. Looking at the requirements on both the institutional and the C1, there seems to be a much larger variety of industry and services that could occupy this space under the C1 designation without the town furthering requiring approvals. When I look at the list for options for the institutional zoning, I personally find it very restrictive and very specific in nature. In fact, it only has 12 permitted uses in comparison to 27 permitted uses in the C1 district. Add to that the listed discretionary uses, and we're still sitting at a limited of 37 possible very specific uses if we rezone this to institutional. In comparison, there's 53 C1 possibilities that are much broader in nature that could go into that space. Unfortunately, the Alberta Social Housing Corps kind of sits at a higher level than us, and I don't know if they actually took the time to review the current permitted uses rather than just looking at the institutional. But I'm also under the impression that there's people, businesses, and groups in town who, if they had known or if they had heard that this building was open, they may have approached the government to actually use the building. I think at this point, it would be a mistake for council to rezone this site. And now that the public know that it's an open building and it's available to lease, the provincial government might get some interest in it for future development. I think we've worked extremely hard to the council for the last 3 years to develop a mission statement and vision that we're all excited about and working hard towards. We're taking a lot of steps in the right direction right now, and I think that if we're going to work towards revitalizing and rejuvenating our downtown core, making this zoning change might be a step in the wrong direction and won't support our end goals of growing our business and growing industry, as an institutional zoning basically removes these options for the site. So staying true to my vision and my economic prosperity for the town of Slave Lake, I personally cannot support this zoning.
Can I just speak to some of the points you made? I did go over the uses for both C1 and institutional. There are many uses in the C1 that they do not want their building used for. And that's why they said, we want to have it changed to institutional. It's not specifically for the MAT program.
Nope.
It is specifically because the listed of uses, they want less commercial for their building.
I understand
And
that.
as
It just doesn't make sense to me that they want to change it to broaden the horizons, and they're actually restricting it.
Yeah, but the reason being is that they want it for services, not for commercial.
I should comment here
Yes.
too. It's very typical for provincial government to try to refine their uses around the public and quasi-public use. It's really typical. It's not normal that you see provincially owned buildings with commercial zoning. Typically, they want to fall in under that institutional, just for information.
Yeah.
Okay. Good points.
When you say in the report that the subject lands are located on the edge of C1 and near 2 other parcels of industrial and with institutional zoning, those other parcels aren't even close. They're not embedded within the neighborhood. They're outside of the neighborhood, correct? Out of a
No.
residential neighborhood.
No, there is these lands, there is a commercial residential building and then a church.
Right.
So they're right nearby. And then there's also the Koinonia private school, which is just 1 block over.
I know that, but this particular building that we're talking about, it's surrounded by residential, correct?
No, if you look at there is residential as a C around it basically. And then it is commercial designation beside it.
So 221, 217, 213, and 209, they're not
Just let me
they're
look
not
at
residential houses?
No, there's C1.
There's C1, yeah.
That's the zoning.
Yeah, that whole area there is C1.
But are they residential houses?
That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No,
As a matter of fact, quite a few of those houses on that block have converted over to commercial uses or a mix of commercial residential.
and 213 and 209 are both parking lot.
Okay.
I think if I remember correctly, there's only one non-conforming house there, and the rest is the old government building, right? The SLD building?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, right? Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, because 201 is more business, right? Going down towards the tracks also.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's health
yes, that's
within.
health
That's a
within.
mixed, it was a mixed, residential on the top and commercial on the bottom.
Yeah, and then 221 is that the residential mixed also, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then R2, R1. Okay. Is there any more discussion?
When I look at the nature of the institutional district, so I went through a zoning map of the town and I, looked at all the different areas that are institutional. The nature of the district is there's little pockets here and there all throughout the town. You can't put institutional all in one area. So, when I look at this, I do believe the institutional use here complements the area. The MAP program is something that's completely separate from this application. I look at the land use bylaw, I look at the permitted uses of the institutional district and think, is this a fit that works here? And when I look at a majority of them, I do believe that majority of the permitted uses fit with there. So therefore, I am in favor of the zoning change.
So that, okay, so this is 6B, so we did take that, this package of information and added it to this. I would like to see this information also added to the application, any application that comes through.
Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? No, call the question, those in favor?
Do we have a motion? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. we
I
don't
didn't
have
think we had a motion.
I'll make that. Syed, you want to make the motion? Okay, we have a motion on the table. Call the question, those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor. Those opposed? 3 opposed. Do you guys want your votes recorded?
Yes, please.
Of course.
Dan? Audrey, okay. Motion carried. 6C, amend the MDP redesignation, page 32.
I have to step out for these two.
Okay. Are you back for 6D?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just these three are all linked.
yeah, they
six-
are. They're a three-part
C, D, and E
application.
is all linked.
Oh, okay. So she's not back
No.
till after E is taken care of?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the purpose of this report is for the MPC to provide council with a recommendation with respect to bylaw number 25, 2020, and the applicant and landowners are L. Lyle Rooker Professional Corp. and 1283447 Alberta Limited. Subject lands are 105 and 109 6th Ave Southeast, Lot 3A, Block 31, Plan 0122117, and Lot 3, Block 31, Plan 6474NY. So the proposal with this application is to redesignate the subject lands from regional commercial to downtown. The town council, in accordance with the MGA, must give this bylaw first reading and hold the required public hearing prior to passing a resolution. So for the MDP, the subject site is within the regional commercial designation of the municipal development plan, and such an amendment is required. With the downtown and Main Street area plan, the subject site is within the mixed hospitality commercial precinct and maintains a C2 secondary commercial designation, and as such must be amended. And the subject site is within the C2 secondary commercial district land use designation of the land use bylaw, and as such must be amended. Bylaw 25 will be advertised for a period of 2 weeks on the town's webpage and social media sites. As such, we do not have any written or verbal comments as yet because it hasn't been advertised. This bylaw is being introduced to the MPC, as I said, for a recommendation to council. 3 plan amendments are required to facilitate this application. The municipal development plan under bylaw number 25/2020, the downtown plan under bylaw number 26/2020, and the land use bylaw under bylaw number 27/2020. The applicants have indicated that they would like to be able to entice more of the uses that currently exist in the C1 district to their sites. They maintain that they have been and currently are part of the downtown area, and that this zoning change will increase the opportunities to lease space in their buildings. So just a little bit information here on the recommendation. So the planning department recognizes that council's strategic priority and vision is to grow business in Slave Lake, which in turn will drive the local economy and grow the town as a whole. While the downtown plan was recently amended, it restricts the ability of potential business opportunities along the Main Street corridor. Further, the downtown plan and the land use bylaw do not support council's vision, especially in commercial areas. Essentially, it appears that with respect to commercial developments, the planning regulations appear to be in constant conflict with this vision. In order to provide a more diverse list of business opportunities in these areas, then we're talking about the C2 areas, the planning department is suggesting perhaps a different and non-conventional approach. This approach would consider zoning and uses in commercial districts based on good planning principles in conjunction with the zoning maps and the purpose of districts. When considering the subject sites in relation to the listed uses in the C1 district and good planning principles, we have the following to report. These are the principles we're referring to. Public safety. When considering public safety, we are reviewing the subject site and area with potential developments and list of uses to determine if there could be a potential public safety concern. Compatibility. When considering compatibility of uses, we're reviewing the subject site and area with the potential developments and list of uses to determine if the proposed uses or developments may generate noise, dust, odor, traffic, fumes, etc. Essentially, a component of a use or a development that would create concerns from adjacent uses or adjacent sites. Infrastructure. When considering infrastructure, we're reviewing the subject site and area with potential uses and developments to determine if appropriate and sufficient infrastructure is present to properly support those uses and developments and will not create operational issues or public safety concerns. And finally, the fourth one is environment. When considering the environment, we're reviewing the subject site and area with potential developments and uses to determine if the proposed use or development would create environmental issues and concerns. So when comparing these planning principles to the subject application, none of the uses listed in the C1 Central Commercial Mixed Use District appear to present any issues when reviewing them with the four planning principles listed above. Planning Department is also cognizant that the proposed amendment creates spot zoning. However, this planning approach, this new approach, does not concern itself with that issue. Eventually, what we hope will occur is an update to the downtown plan and the land use bylaw to create a much larger central commercial zone, which includes the downtown core and the entire length of Main Street up to Highway 2. This amendment will then resolve the spot zoning issue. However, for now, this is the approach we're considering and spot zoning would be created. So I wanted to throw that out there for you because it's a new consideration. Council hasn't looked at this yet. They will be presented this report and this new concept tomorrow night. So the Planning Department is recommending the MPC supports bylaw 25-2020, and this is the same, essentially same report for bylaw number 26 and 27. Questions?
Becca?
So council discussed many times about spot zoning. I'm not a fan. I think it makes everything messy. I don't think this is necessary at this point. I find the uses very similar, and I think I like the plan of developing a proper downtown core. And I think I'd rather just wait till then rather than having all these little spot zones. I think that will just be a disaster.
So you're,
So
Bryce?
go ahead. You can.
Yeah, so you're saying rather than just doing the spot zoning, that we actually take that whole area and deal with it
Absolutely.
so that there is no spot
Like
zoning?
Lori was just saying, to streamline it, like the full downtown, rather than this here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, just to address that issue so that council and MPC are aware, the problem it creates just trying to do that, we would really need to bring in a consultant to amend the plan again, because there's quite a bit that would have to change. So it's sort of continue the way we've been going in our traditional method, or employ this till at some point we undertake a rewrite of that downtown plan. Because it's not just as simple, it's not going to be just as simple as me saying, okay, all these properties are going to move to C1. There's going to have to be some more, work done.
Unless they have a specific thing in mind for this, again, we're not supposed to take that into consideration. Unless they have a specific thing in mind, I'm okay to leave it. Like I said, I find it very similar in uses. I don't see any major differences.
Okay, Bryce?
So yeah, typically, we do want to avoid spot zoning. However, I like how the planning department is thinking big picture, a future expansion of downtown. So when I read that last line of the report there, you're looking well into the future that we're going to have this big vibrant downtown core. So I really like that. I like that methodical and strategic approach to this. The other thing I do consider though is literally a stone's throw away across the street, there is C1 existing already. So while it may look like there's some spot zoning, C1 does exist really just across the road. So I would be in favor across Main Street.
Oh, in
There's C1 just right across the road there. So it's not like we're dealing with, there's C1 way north of the railroad tracks. There is C1 that is nearby. So I'm in support of it.
So are you saying C1 or are you saying the downtown?
Just to clarify as well, the C1 exists in the shopping center site here. It's the building with the Subway and Mary Brown's Chicken that have the C1 zoning. It still would be considered spot zoning because it's
Yeah.
you can't.
No, and I understand that. It would still be a spot zone, but it's not like it's off by itself in the middle of nowhere, a kilometer or 500 yards away from everything else. There is other C1 nearby. So I do support it.
Okay,
Right here.
can I get a motion?
Motion.
Audrey,
That's across the road.
any more discussion? Call the question, those in favor?
Yeah, Audrey did.
Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Would you like your votes recorded? Yeah, okay.
So I will bring back an update to the MPC at our next meeting as to what councils, if they're in favor of this new process or not.
So that was for bylaw 25.
So we'll need I don't know, do you want me to reread? It's the same report? So,
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's 25, 26, and 27,
Yeah.
right? So,
on page 45.
yeah, so page 42, bylaw number 26-2020. And so this one is redesignating the lands from C2 to C1.
Right. So they all accomplish, so this is so that all the plans align, so they accomplish the same thing. In order to get the C1 zoning and the land use bylaw, we have to amend both these plans so it brings it into the right designation. Right? The MDP, the downtown plan, and land use bylaw all got to be talking the same story.
But if town council hasn't changed what's this? The MDP plan. So if they don't vote in favor of changing the MDP plan,
Then it defeats all of them.
it defeats all of them.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going like, why are we taking care of, now we're addressing the actual specific zoning when,
So the bylaws will present it in the same order, so that if they don't support the MDP, then
Then the other two
they'll
are
defeat
null
the
and
other
void.
two as well,
Okay.
yeah. So you don't have the plans out of sync.
okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the C2 secondary commercial to C1 central? Is there significantly more possible uses?
I have a copy of the LUB if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, the uses,
Yeah.
the list of uses don't apply to the downtown and Main Street area plan, but they apply to the land use bylaw, right? But you're asking for land use bylaw listed uses, I'm assuming?
So we're going from C2 to C1.
Yeah, the purpose of the district is quite different. The intent of the C2 district is to create, was intended more to be for offices and for commercial uses that need large tracts of land and may have commercial manufacturing on site and packaging and that sort of thing. And it's not intended to be the central or core commercial area, which is what the C1 is. So just to give you, that's what the bylaw says about each one.
Okay, so under the existing uses C2, we've had personal services in there.
That was removed when the downtown plan was
It was
amended.
removed, but we physically had uses in there that were personal services.
We did have.
Yeah.
And how that works is if there's a use that's applied for and approved by the MPC, it's considered legal, non-conforming. So the business can continue to operate,
Oh, okay.
even though the land use bylaw list has changed.
Okay.
It's only when they cease to operate and the space becomes vacant, that when they refill the space, they have to meet the land use requirements of the day. So an amendment to the bylaw doesn't give the municipality the authority, nor would we want it, for clarification, to go in and shut down an existing business and say, oh, well, we've changed the bylaw, you have to shut your business down now and move somewhere else.
But personal services were allowed in the C2 under discretionary anyway, if you look at that one.
Only in hotels.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's personal services tied to a hotel use.
Yeah.
So one of the options that was offered to the applicants was to add the use to the district. Their preference was to rezone the lands. Because they could apply to just add personal services to the C2.
okay, so it's obviously, they must be looking at another use listed in the C1 as.
There's quite a few
potential.
more uses in
Yeah.
the C1 that they want to be able to attract to that site. Is how they indicated to me.
Yeah, okay. Any more discussion? Can I get a motion? Audrey? Motion on the floor, call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And you guys would like your votes recorded? Yes. Um, 6E, page 52. Amend land use bylaw redistricting C2 to C1.
And the motion is on page 55.
So I'll make that motion. Any discussion? No? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And she's nodding, he's nodding, votes to be recorded. Number 7, proposed subdivisions. She back. Oh, wait, okay, please sit down. Proposed subdivisions, nothing. 8A, other business, building value report, page 62. Any discussion?
Better? We were quite excited about those numbers.
Yeah.
So-
What? 3 residential? Wow.
Ooh.
And a secondary suite.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
see.
Okay,
We'll see, one step at a time.
I've issued the permit so that it goes on the report.
okay. Okay, can I get a motion to accept building value report as information? Julie, call the question. Those in favor? Carried. And next meeting, MPC development concerns?
Any? I don't have any.
Nothing.
Anybody else?
Can't think of any. No? Next meeting, December 7th. Our last meeting before Christmas.
Yeah. And I
Is everybody?
was going to say we have applications, but we don't actually at this point.
No?
But that's a long ways
Yeah.
away, so.
Yeah. Okay, and number 11, adjourn. Thanks, everybody.